So, let's talk about AI. If I asked you to name an AI model right now, I bet you'd say ChatGPT, right? And for a while, that was kind of the whole story. But today, saying every AI is an LLM, well, that's like trying to build an entire house with nothing but a hammer. It's time we opened up the full toolbox.
So let's just get right to it and ask the big question. Is every AI we're interacting with just some version of ChatGPT? The short answer? Absolutely not. Not anymore. The reality is the whole AI landscape has just exploded with all these new specialized tools.
And this right here, this really gets to the heart of it. The myth, the thing we've all kind of gotten used to, is this idea that we have one magic tool, the LLM hammer, and we just try to whack every single problem with it. But the reality? It's this incredible, diverse ecosystem of highly specialized AI models. And the real trick, the game changer, is knowing which tool to pick for which job.
Okay, so let's dive in. We're going to start with the models that are absolute experts in the world of words. I'm talking about the AIs that understand, generate, and analyze language like it's their native tongue.
First up, you got to pay respect to the celebrity of the group, the LLM, the large language model. You can think of it as a friend who has literally read the entire internet. But its superpower is surprisingly simple. It just predicts the next most likely word in a sentence. Yeah, that's it. It's basically a supercharged autocomplete that's gotten so good it can write essays, debug your code, or even spit out a sonnet like Shakespeare.
But here's the catch, and this is super important. LLMs are amazing generalists, but they have a couple of big gotchas. First, because all they're doing is predicting patterns, they can confidently just make things up. We call this hallucinating. And second, these things are incredibly expensive and power-hungry to run. They're the heavy machinery, and that power comes at a serious cost.
Now, before the whole LLM craze, there was the MLM, the Masked Language Model. And this one is what I like to call the context detective. See, instead of predicting the next word, its job is to fill in the blanks, right in the middle of a sentence. This forces it to look both forwards and backwards, giving it this incredibly deep, what we call bidirectional understanding of context.
Now, MLMs might not seem as flashy. They're not going to write you a poem. But they are the silent workhorses behind so many of the tools you use every single day. They're at the very core of search engines like Google. They run our spam filters. They're brilliant at figuring out if a movie review is positive or negative. Why? Because they can read between the lines better than almost anything else out there.
So if you remember one thing, let it be this. It's all about their approach. An LLM is like reading a book, one word at a time, always guessing what comes next. An LLM, on the other hand, is like solving a crossword puzzle. It uses all the surrounding clues to find that one missing piece. And that fundamental difference makes them perfect for completely different jobs.
All right, let's switch gears. We're moving beyond just text and into the visual world. This next set of tools in our toolbox is basically how AI gets its eyes.
First up, we have the LCM, the Latent Consistency Model. I love this one. I call it the speed sketcher. If you've ever played around with image generators, you know they can be kind of slow, right? Well, LCMs completely change the game. Their superpower is generating really high-quality images in just a handful of steps, not dozens and dozens.
So think about it this way. A normal model might slowly draw 50 different lines to create a face. An LCM, it just does it in a few quick, confident strokes. And that speed is absolutely essential for things like real-time graphics on your phone, for augmented reality, and for making live avatars that can actually react in the moment.
Next, we've got the VLM, or Vision Language Model. This is truly the eyes and brain of the AI world, all rolled into one. It basically bolts two things together. A vision part that sees an image, and a language part that reads a question. It literally translates both pixels and text into a shared language that it can understand.
And this lets it do some incredible stuff. You can upload a photo of a broken car part and just ask, hey, how do I fix this? It can describe a beautiful park scene to a visually impaired person or give a robot the ability to truly understand its physical surroundings. It is the Swiss Army knife of AI perception.
And finally, in our vision category, we have SAM, the Segment Anything Model. Now this is a pure specialist, a true pixel surgeon. It has one job and one job only, to look at an image and draw a perfectly precise outline around any object you point to.
But here's the magic. The real breakthrough is that it can do this for objects it has never ever seen before.
That is a huge deal. It's used by surgeons to isolate tumors in an MRI scan. It's used by you every time you remove the background from a selfie. And it's used by self-driving cars to identify every single car, person, and sign on the road. It's that critical.
So we've covered models that can understand language and vision. Now let's look at the models that are built for action and for being incredibly efficient. This is where AI gets its hands and a much more streamlined brain.
Everybody meet the LLM, the language action model, or as I like to call it, the doer. If an LLM is a talker, a LLM is all about action. And this model, this represents a massive shift from AI that just says things to an AI that actually does things by connecting to the tools and apps you use every day. So it doesn't just write an email suggesting you have a meeting. No, it opens your calendar, it finds an empty slot that works for everyone, it books the meeting, and it sends out the invites. We're entering the era of AI agents that can automate these complex multi-step tasks, like booking your entire vacation from flights to hotels.
You know, as these models get bigger and bigger, they get slower and more expensive. So what's the solution? It's the MOE, or mixture of experts. Instead of one giant monolithic brain that has to think about every single question, an MOE is like having a whole team of specialists, with a smart router acting as the receptionist.
And the efficiency gain here is just massive. Think about it. If you ask a math question, the router sends it only to the math expert and lets the history expert just stay asleep. This brilliant setup allows us to build models with trillions of parameters that are still incredibly fast and, you guessed it, much more cost-effective to run.
But you know what? Bigger isn't always better. And that brings us to the SLM, or Small Language Model, the mighty pocket rocket. These are kind of like the minimalist cousins of the giant LLMs, and they're specifically designed to run right on your devices, like your phone or your laptop, not in some massive data center.
So why on earth would you use one of these? Well, there are two huge reasons. First, total privacy. Your data never, ever leaves your device. And second, zero latency, because it runs completely offline. The big takeaway here is that not every problem needs a nuclear reactor to solve it. For a lot of daily tasks, a smart, private calculator is exactly what you need. So, let's wrap this all up and look at our complete AI toolbox. For general writing and brainstorming, you grab the LLM. For deep context and search, you need the MLM Detective. For ultra-fast images, it's the LCM Sketcher. For understanding what's in an image, that's the VLM. For cutting things out with perfect precision, you need the SAM Surgeon. To actually get things done, you call on the LLM Doer. For efficient scale, you assemble the MOE team. And for privacy right on your device, you've got the SLM Pocket Rocket. See, the right tool is always the one that was designed for the job.
So the next time you hear about a problem that needs an AI solution, I want you to stop and think. Don't just reach for that one big hammer. Think about this entire toolbox. Because the future isn't about one giant model doing everything, it's about all of these specialized tools working together in concert. The toolbox is open. The only question left is, what are you going to build?